Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar. I'm Caleb Tingstad. I'm a lawyer at Beresford booth here in Edmonds, Washington. And today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about alternatives to judicial dissolution for Washington entities. And just a little bit of background here. Judicial dissolution almost exclusively arises in the context of one particular type of litigation, which we refer to as business divorce litigation, which is essentially where you have co-owners of a business, whether it be a corporation or an LLC, sometimes a partnership, and for whatever reason, those owners are just no longer getting along, and so they need to go their separate ways. And a cause of action that is normally asserted in these types of disputes is known as judicial dissolution, and that's because it arises from a statute, depending on where the entity is formed and which specific entity it is. The statutes that apply to the specific entities will give the judge the ability to dissolve, whether it's a corporation or an LLC or a partnership. And interestingly, even though this is dissolution of Washington LLCs, we are going to actually discuss an Oregon case. And the Oregon case is what gives rise to our different alternatives for judicial dissolution. Essentially, in this Oregon case, which goes back many, many years, is essentially the concept that judicial dissolution, which is where the court says, all right, that's it, the whole entity is over with, you guys can no longer work together, so you're going to have to wind up the company's affairs, sell off all the assets, and dissolve and cease doing business. What the Oregon Supreme Court did back in 1973 is said, okay, look, that's a really extreme remedy. And because it's so extreme, we want to be able to look for alternatives for courts to be able to use, because if you have really sophisticated operating entities with lots of employees, so on and so forth, you don't want all those third parties to be collateral in the collateral damage in the dispute among the co-owners. And so the Supreme Court of Oregon in 1973 set forth some alternatives. And this was in the early 2000s. The Washington Supreme Court essentially put their stamp of approval on this case and said, you know what, yes, we're gonna look to these alternatives. And so you can see here, the first one is the entry of an order requiring dissolution in a specific date in the event that the stockholders can't agree to work out their differences. So sort of agreeing to dissolution, but at some point in the future. Appointment of a receiver, and the distinction here is normally when a receiver is appointed, the receiver is there to help wind up the company's affairs, liquidate, and dissolve. Here, an alternative is where a receiver is just appointed for operating purposes to help the entity operate. And here, as the case is referencing, it's there to help minority shareholders or minority owners of a company, because frequently what we have happen is the majority takes control and then attempts to use that control to prejudice the minority owners. We also have the appointment of a special fiscal agent who is essentially there to just oversee the way that the business is operating. Or the court can just say, you know what, and here we're looking at D, the court can say, hey, you know what, the company is just going to continue to operate, and but the case is going to stay open. The litigation will stop, but the case will stay open, so that the parties can report back to the court in case there are additional issues. The main one that I want to focus on today, which I think is of interest to most folks here, is the concept where the court can order essentially either the company, in this case the corporation, or a majority of the owners of the corporation to purchase, buy out the minority shareholder. This can oftentimes be a very attractive option because sometimes from the majority owner's perspective, the minority shareholder can be kind of a pesky party as the majority is attempting to run the business, and this can be an effective option. It allows the minority to be paid the fair, as the Oregon Supreme Court said, the fair and reasonable price for their ownership interest, but at the same time, it allows the parties to go their separate ways and allow the business owners to get back to what they do best, which is operating the business rather than litigating in court. These are all of these options. This is just a brief discussion of all these options. This is a very, deciding which option fits best is very much still on a case-by-case basis. And even the applicability of this, because this is very, very much in a corporate context, the applicability to this with different entities also needs to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And that's why we're here, because everyone's case is unique and is different and requires a unique approach to each different matter. So once again, my name is Caleb Tingstad, lawyer at Beresford Booth. If you have any questions, you can feel free to give us a call or shoot me an email. Thank you so much for your time.